We're just going to roll. We'll just do the clap. That was my warm-up. We'll get straight back into it. In this video, I'm going to introduce our new Tvan deck spring kit. This covers models from 99 or Mark 1 through to 2017, Mark 4. This kit is primarily to address deck weight, so it's an improvement. It provides additional assistance when raising and lowering. It also helps manage corrosion. Corrosion in the original Tvan deck spring was a bit of a problem. It also helps with the installation and the servicing of deck springs. So first thing is primarily the additional strength. The spring now provides an additional 25% assistance, although when we're comparing it to used springs, that's substantially more. The problem we identified with the original springs was that they were used outside the material limit, primarily the heavy. And so I've got an example here of an extension spring to help try and convey what I'm trying to say. And that is that an extension spring, when used inside the limits of the material that it's manufactured from, should cycle thousands of times. In Tvan, we identified only through the process of sourcing a heavier spring that they were actually pushed much further than that. And so when you overextend a spring, this one's a very stiff spring, they get longer and they lose the assistance that they provide. And this is the biggest issue with the existing deck spring kit. And I'll show you when we have a look at that kit how they compare the original versus the revised version. The other thing that we identified was corrosion. Corrosion's been an issue even in new springs. And so we've got a photo. Because of the way these are coated, they're zinc plated after manufacture, we'd find that the zinc protection wouldn't penetrate in between each coil because they go into the tank like this. It's also a closed cylinder and the zinc doesn't penetrate down the bore of that cylinder. And so from here to here internally, there is no zinc protection. And so we'd find them corroding very quickly. Not a big issue, except that aesthetically it's not very nice. So what we did is we had ours manufactured out of galvanised wire. So the material is essentially treated before it's turned into or formed into a spring. The other thing with our opportunity to do was to improve the way the springs are anchored. We had to do that for two reasons. Number one, the existing anchor wasn't really sufficient, especially in early Tvan. We were concerned about bending of the structure of the van. So we had to introduce a mechanism or a new anchor package which was a little bit stronger. The installation and removal of the spring, the servicing of the spring has always been a bit of a task as well. So in the process of addressing that, we were able to make the installation process much easier. Still need to put the retaining washers on, but essentially much quicker and much easier for the purposes of service. All right, so when you receive the kit, it's going to come in a box like this. It's going to have the hardware, and the hardware is the new anchors. There's some rivets, flat washers, these reinforcing panels, the main fasteners, they're all stainless, and a small 17mm spanner. The springs are packaged. I've got an original set here, so these are track original. You'll notice a substantial difference between the original heavy and the revised heavy. Remember, we've only increased the assistance by 25%, but we've had to increase the length dramatically to ensure that we don't lose rate. Again, we're trying to ensure the spring stays inside the material limit during raising and lowering to ensure that we don't lose spring assistance or rate over time. All right, so you'll need a rivet gun, a power drill. I've got some 3/16 drill bits, 4.8, 3/16, about the same size, 6mm Allen key, 13mm ring spanner. I've also got this for earlier generation Tvan, the drill bit on the driver makes it a little bit easier for access. for the reinforcing panel. Really important before you start this job that you go and buy some silver anti-seize specifically for stainless steel. It is critical when assembling stainless fasteners into stainless hardware. If you don't, they can gall, and if you've not experienced it before, essentially it's those two components welding themselves together, and it's pretty much impossible to get apart once they have galled. It's a matter of cutting them off and replacing them, unfortunately. So highly recommend before you attempt to start, go and get some anti-seize and make sure that you apply anti-seize to all the fasteners, except for the rivets, liberally, just to make sure you've got good protection. All right, for the install, first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and remove the existing springs. So to do that, leave the deck raised. For Mark IV, there's a few extra steps. First of all, is I'm going to go ahead and remove this rear light cluster and this cover. Reasonably straightforward, so we'll skip ahead and we'll come back once I've done that. All right, so at this point, Mark IV, unfortunately, we have to remove a fair bit more hardware. So that rear light cluster and its mounting plate is off, water cover's off. I've removed the existing springs and the anchors. Just be aware, when you're removing these, I typically remove them from the top. Just get the nuts off the back so that the 6mm bolt sort of wedged in there. That way you can, in a controlled manner, release the spring and pull it away. They do have a bit of tension on them, so just be aware of that. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to drill out the 6mm holes with an 8mm drill bit. We have increased the size of the fasteners just to help increase the strength of the durability of the mounting. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. At this point, we've drilled those. It's a good idea to go ahead and remove any burrs. So I'm going to grab a countersink bit now and just remove those. All right, so at this point, I've drilled out D-burred, and so I'm nearly ready to go and install the new anchors. So what you'll need is you'll need the long cap screw stainless fasteners, a spring washer. Spring washer always goes at the head end. And if you've got enough space, use one of the smaller washers on the back side of the deck. Now the reason we've used cap screws is because the distance is quite shallow here. It's quite difficult to get a standard fastener on in M8. So I'm going to just test fit this. And in this case, I'm going to get the small flat washer on there as well. Remember, the flats, or the side with the flats, goes towards the van. So I'll thread those on shortly. A little bit more complicated down here at this end. In earlier Tvan, they're a little bit soft in this area. So what we need to do is we need to install these reinforcing plates. This one is for the heavy, so the one with the angle or the fold in it is for the heavy spring anchor. That's the one at the bottom. So we're going to place that on the back side. This one is for the back side at the top. That's the light spring. In Mark IV, they're quite strong in this area. So it's probably a little bit overkill for earlier generation Tvan, Mark I or Mark II, which we saw in the frame a little bit earlier. The material's quite soft, it's all aluminium. and so they definitely need this reinforcing. The idea with the fold or the corner in this one is that once it's installed, you can drill 2 additional holes down through the floor here and rivet up from the bottom, and that will just help tie that into that structure, that substructure a little bit better. What I need to do before I can go ahead and install though, and again this is a relatively universal kit, is I need to identify which rivets I need to remove. I'm going to need to remove on this van at least 2 rivets. I'm going to then go ahead and install this kit. Then I'm going to drill new holes to clear those out, reinstall those rivets. So these are all dry fit now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take that Allen key, that 17mm spanner. Some of you will have 17mm spanners that are narrow enough to fit across the flat, so you might not need to use the one that's included in our kit. As far as, I should say, just be aware that these reinforcing plates, just make sure that they are flush all the way down because the holes are slotted before you do them up. Once they're done up and they're tight, then we'll go back and drill the holes and refit those rivets. And they just need to be done, they just need to be tightened firmly. They don't have a torque rating. They are high tensile stainless fasteners, so you can put a little bit of pressure into them. All right, so at this point the anchors are installed. I still need to go back and backfill these holes now. So I'm going to take my, again, 4.8 or 3/16 drill bit. I'm going to cut on this particular van 3 new holes through those washers that I've just installed, and then we'll come back to installing the springs. So that's the last few rivets installed. A couple of them hard to access. It's the same on early generation Tvan or earlier. It's probably easy to leave these couple that are underneath until toward the end so that we can lower the deck down and access those without the arm in the way. So to install these deck springs, just make sure you've got eye protection on. Again, the light spring goes at the top. The heavy spring goes at the bottom. Just be aware that they can fly off until you've got the retaining washers on. Due to the design of the seat though, they are tapered, so they should be inclined to want to stay on there. Again, remember, before you install these, and of course we're going to be using the short hex head fastener, spring washer on first, then the large flat washer. Make sure you use plenty of anti-seize, and then you can go ahead and install the last of these. Alright, so that's the deck spring kit fitted. We've now got to go across and replicate this on the other side. For some vans, Mark IV, the command console on the other side has to come out, so if you're not familiar with that process, just remember, it's just fasteners. They're reasonably easy to get out. They can be in Mark IV a little bit tight to get back in, so make sure you keep an eye on the wiring behind the command console. It is a bit of a pinch back there. I'm going to go ahead now and install this rear light mount, this rear cover, those last couple of fasteners from underneath for the anchor plate that's on the back side, and then we'll come back once I've done the other side. Right, so that mostly concludes the install. So after I'd left off with you last, I'd gone ahead and installed the springs on the other side. You can see now, whilst we didn't demo it at the start, you can see the deck is substantially lighter than it was before. A couple of points I do want to pass on. First of all, depending on the model, there will be rivets left over in your kit. They are the standard designed rivet the track use, so pop those aside. You can use those for any other application. Remember to use that anti-seize, it's critical. If you don't use it, you will find you'll have a problem with cold welding or galling. Obviously, when the fastener binds to the hardware or the spring anchors. A point that I wanted to pass along, whilst it wasn't in our design, you'll find some of the heavy springs, you may or may not receive them. The end loop, the planes are not the same. You see this one's flat, this one's rotated. It's a result of manufacture. We don't know if we're going to be able to get around it, but ultimately it's not really a problem. It just means when you install the first loop, you want to put the retainer on there, the washer and the fastener, and then you'll find you can just rotate it quite easily and fit it. Just don't leave them hang on there by themselves. Put the retaining washer on straight away. The other thing is tools. At the start of the video, I described the 5 tools you might need. It works out that you need the full 248 piece toolkit and a selection of power tools. So what we'll do is we'll put up the text or the list somewhere of which tools we recommend, perhaps in the description. So thank you. Again, if you've got any issues, just reach out. You know where we are, pretty easy to access. Thank you.